Good morning. Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made. We are going to rejoice and be glad in it. If this is your first time stopping by this streaming platform, it is not by accident that you are here. God has a message that He wants to give to you, to reach down into your inner spirit and to give you a spirit of resilience, a spirit of inspiration, and a spirit of zeal, and to encourage you from the inside out. Well, today's message is super marvelous. I received this one much earlier than the other time, but yeah, I got it at 1:32 this morning, and then I went back to sleep. So anyway, let's go ahead and start off. I want to play this song first. So hold on for just a moment. I hope you can hear it. Actually, I don't think you can. No, you can't. You're not going to be able to hear it. So I'm going to cut it off. Let's just go on with the message because I don't want to disturb anything. Let's see. Let me get back to it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start with scripture, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. These two people are better than one. When two people work together, they get more work done. And let me go back to this other thing. Okay, here we go. Verse 10, if one person falls, the other person can reach out to help. But those who are alone when they fall have no one to help them. And then we're going to go to Galatians 2. Help each other with your troubles. When you do this, you are obeying the law of Christ. And may the Lord add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of His holy word. And for a title of this message, neglect. I am drowning. These three words. Neglect. I am drowning. These three words. Wake up today and live and not just exist. Today, when you wake up, live and not just exist. So let's go to the spiritual classroom so we can get on with the message. It's a heavy feeling when you realize that you've been standing on the sidelines while the person that you care the most about is drowning, or even just your classmates or your relatives or your coworkers, whether it's caused by burnout or apathy or just not knowing. Maybe you don't really know what to say. Scripture is pretty clear that doing nothing isn't an option for you as a believer. In this biblical view, when we look at relationship, it isn't just a legal contract or it's just a contract of connecting. It's a covenant of intervention. When one person trips, the other is the designated safety net. So let's look at the scripture that we just read about and the principles that apply to the bystander effect. The power of presence in Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 and 10. This is the classic better together verse, but it has a specific warning for those who stay solo in their struggles. Two really are better than one, for if they fall, one will lift up the other one. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. So if you see your loved one falling and don't reach out, you are essentially leaving them alone in the way this verse warns against them. Again, if you see your coworker falling, you see your neighbor falling, you just see someone falling, and you don't reach out, you are essentially leaving them alone in their way, in the way this verse warns against it. And then number two, as we go to Galatians 6, verse 2, the law of Christ. Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. The law of Christ is love. Love is an action verb. When your person or the person that you're looking at is carrying a heavy load, be it emotional, be it financial, be it spiritual. The command is to step under the weight with them. And doing absolutely nothing is a direct bypass of this law. And then also, there's another scripture from James chapter 4, verse 17. Knowing better. This one hits a bit harder because it speaks to the intention of your heart. So, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, you just turn your side eye for him, it is a sin. If your conscience is pricking you because you see the struggle and are choosing to remain passive and just act like you don't see it, it becomes invisible. James in this book is suggesting that doing nothing is actually an active choice of neglect. Just like the invitation, the invitation that was not that was Governor Westmore received, and he was disinvited to the governor's dinner. And someone made a comment that all of the other governors should give their invitation back. But we all know how that's going to go. It's going to be invisible. And then we go to 1 Corinthians 12, verse 26, the one body principle. In the relationship, especially like in marriage, you are one flesh. Paul uses this analogy of a body, a physical body, to describe the church, but it applies perfectly to the institution of marriage. What about in the church? You can use this as an analogy of the physical body to describe the church body when something is going on within the church walls. But, so if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. So if you see your loved one, you see your neighbor, you see your coworker, you see someone right in front of you struggling, a part of you is also struggling. Ignoring their pain is like ignoring a broken toe. It eventually affects the way the whole body walks. And moving from passive to active, if you are being stuck in a rut of inaction, there is a simple way to pivot, such as acknowledge that gap. I've noticed you've been carrying a lot lately, and I'm so sorry. I haven't stepped up to help. I want to change that. And then the specific act itself, instead of saying, let me know, we say this a lot. You see them struggling. They say, and then you say, well, let me know if you need anything. Now, you know they need something, but you say, well, let you see it. But you say passively, let me know if you need anything, which adds the mental load of delegating to the person already struggling. I'm taking over dinner. I'm taking the kids. I'm doing the chores. I'm doing this. I'm doing that so you can get a break. What else can I move off your plate? Sometimes people say, well, I'll pray for you to help, and sometimes you can't fix the problem, but they'll say, I'll pray for you. Now, they need prayer. But in 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, encourage one another, which we should, and build one another up. Hearing you pray for them can be a massive emotional lift. Now, you didn't say that, you didn't go into the activity of the prayer, which this scripture suggests. You just say, I'll pray for you, which is still passive. So let's gently talk neglect, because this was a part of this message. In a neglected relationship, Galatians 6, verse 2 acts as both a conviction and it also acts as a roadmap. So let's just say, hypothetically, the person is disabled and the other person is not. The definition of neglect shifts from a lack of general attention to a potential failure in covenant care. Applying Galatians 6, verse 2 to neglect says to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. In the original Greek, the word for burdens is baros, Baros. It refers to a heavy crushing weight that a person cannot carry alone. Neglect, as a rule, is a refusal to bear. Neglect isn't always active cruelty, it is often the absence of the action. So if you was talking in the context of marriage, if one spouse is under a crushing weight, such as depression or exhaustion or physical limitation, and the other spouse is just sitting around eating bonbons or sitting around going to the gym, they are failing to fulfill the law of Christ, which is self sacrificial love. And we can take it a little further. One spouse is exhausted from a long day of work, and then they have the other person that's sitting around and playing tennis, but then they expect that person, the other spouse that had the long day, to come home and cook a full 5 course meal. That's not fulfilling the law of Christ. The law of Christ versus the law of self, maybe it's the law of self. Neglect usually happens when one spouse prioritizes their own comfort, their hobbies, or career over the visible needs of the other. Well, in Galatians 6, verse 2, it reminds us that Christian marriage is a burden sharing institution. Well, heck, all marriage should be a burden sharing institution, but we all know that it's not like that because of culture. When a spouse is disabled or they cannot do for themselves, they have other responsibilities and everybody is crowded. When it enters into the marriage, the burden becomes literal and constant. In this context, neglect takes on specific, often heartbreaking form. There's physical and caretaking neglect. This occurs when the able bodied person fails to assist with basic needs of the other person. And if the healthy person treats the needs of the other person as an inconvenience rather than a priority, it then now creates a dangerous environment. Proverbs 3, verse 27 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is your power to act." Then there's emotional ghosting. This is a word that has become very popular in the last 10 years. Emotional ghosting. Commonly in a relationship may provide physical care, but they check out emotionally. That's basically, they're there, but they're not there. They're physical present, but they're really not there. They're really not, they're there, but they're not there. The In Ephesians 5, verse 29, it reminds us that no one ever hated their own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes at the same time. Nourishment is emotional, not just caloric. And then there's also the neglect of dignity. Neglect, especially when you're talking about disability, often looks like infantilization, making all decisions for the other person without their input or ignoring their spiritual, intellectual needs because their physical body is struggling. And then there's the burden of the caregiver, which we all know about. It is important to acknowledge that in Galatians 6, verse 2, it also applies to the community as well as caretakers. Often, the person neglects their other person because they are personally depleted. They tired, busted, and disgusted. They're just burned out. Nobody's helping them. If the healthy person is trying to bear the burden of the unhealthy person without help from like say the church or family or neighbors, then they will eventually collapse. In this case, this is being neglected by the surrounding community. And one last thing, when I wanted to play the song These Three Words, it's a song written by Stevie Wonder. And I couldn't play it for you, but I suggest that you go back and listen to it. Well, I just want to give you the breakdown of that song, These Three Words. When Stevie Wonder sings these three words from his 1991 Jungle Fever track soundtrack, He is issuing a powerful rhythmic warning against the very neglect we've been discussing in this message. The song focuses on the tragedy of procrastinated love. It perfectly bridges the gap between the scriptures on bearing burdens and the reality of a union where one partner is suffering. So here's the breakdown. The danger of someday. Phoebe spends the verses describing someone who intends to show love but keeps waiting for the perfect moment. When was the last time they heard you say that you were helping them to be strong? The lyric here suggests that we often assume that our loved ones know we love them, or our coworkers know that we are there. We know that we can count. We want to believe that we can count on them. So we stop saying it and stop showing it. In the context of disability, neglect, or just having a whole pile of stuff to do or struggle, this silence feels like abandonment. And then the finality of regret. The emotional core of the song is the warning that life is fragile. Because he says in the lyrics, don't wait till I love you is too late to say. Don't wait until the water runs dry. Stevie is saying that inaction is a gamble. If you see your spouse, you see your coworker, you see your neighbor, you see just people in your church, you see them struggling, the water running dry, and you do absolutely nothing, you are risking a moment where you will no longer have the opportunity to help. And that is sad for a spouse, for a church member, for a neighbor, for a coworker that needs your help. The burdens are daily. Stevie argues that the three words I love you must also be daily. And also love as an unspoken debt. The song implies that I love you is more than a sentiment. It's a debt we owe to people who support us and the people we have promised to cherish. In a neglected reunion, these three words become a bridge back to connection. These words serve as a reminder that the person is valued for who they are, not just for what they can physically do. So, how it connects to your situation as we look at this message today, if you're feeling neglected, this song acts as a secular scripture. It challenges the passive spouse, the passive pastor, the passive neighbor, to passive coworker to stop waiting for a quote unquote a better time to be kind or helpful. The the three words in action based on this song's theme is I love you, affirming the person's worth. I am here committing to the bearing of the burdens of Galatians 6, verse 2. And also, how can I, moving from the bystander effect to the active care? And Stevie wrote this as a wake up call. It's a plea to value the people in front of us while they are still here to hear it. Wake up today to live and not just exist. And if this message touches your inner spirit and you would like more help on drafting more from this message to get into your inner spirit, we would love to hear from you. Well, that is the message for today. The windows of heaven have opened. I hope you have enjoyed the view. The ancestors have spoken. Take this message, receive it, marinate on it, chew on it. I know it was a bit much, but God's trying to speak to your inner spirit so you don't become deaf or you don't become negative and don't hurt yourself and you don't harm other people. To God be the glory, Oganafa, Olawa, Amadi, Lavare, Selah, and Essay, and may love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, mercy, forgiveness, and self control be yours And may today be a day of redemption, restitution, resolution, reconciliation, and restoration. And until next time, by God's graces, bye now.